Well, good morning, everybody. It's Mr. Malley here, and it's my really great privilege to do this first assembly with you this morning. We're on Teams this morning, as you can see, but it's been a real privilege to meet you in person. I've been really impressed by your lessons, by your attitude to your learning. I've seen some great things going on in the school, and I've been really impressed by it. Those of you that haven't met me yet or don't know me yet, I'm Mr. Malley. I'm one of the new head teachers. There's two of us this year, but I'm the main head teacher in school for working with students and the teachers, and I'm really, really pleased to be here. And I know that one of the things that we wanted to talk about was upstanders this year. And so this assembly is about upstanders, but I'm also just going to tell you a little bit about myself and how perhaps I think I fit into this school, having just arrived. So if you don't mind, I'm going to show you a little bit of an embarrassing photo of me now. So there you can see me. I think I'm aged about 10 in that picture. I'm the tallest of those three little boys. That's me with my two brothers and my grandparents. And I was in the new uniform of the boarding school that I was about to go to. And I was really lucky as a youngster to go to a boarding school, which I really, really enjoyed. It was on the Isle of Wight. My dad was in the Navy, and it meant that I went to boarding school in those days, and I had a fantastic time, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it's fantastic for me because my career as a teacher so far hasn't been in a boarding school, and it's really great to connect with this great school and be part of it. So I'm really enjoying being here and seeing what's going on. But to move on to the theme of the assembly, I'm going to show you another photo, and there won't be too many photos of me, but we'll fast forward a few years, although this is 24 years ago, and this was on my wedding day. And my wife and I were very, very fortunate that at the time we were getting married in our mid-20s, all of our grandparents were still alive. In fact, my grandpa, who I'm stood next to in that photo, he died just a couple of months after that photo was taken. And the thing about that group of people, that generation of people that my grandparents were part of, they were the generation that fought the Second World War. And of course, the country required them to be upstanders. And of course, across the country, everybody, virtually everybody, was an upstander at that time. And certainly my granny went to work in a factory, and that wasn't something that women generally had the opportunity to work. But in the war, that was given to them as an opportunity. In fact, it was something that helped to lead to the transformation of women's rights over the years to follow. But actually, they were upstanders. My granddad, my youngest granddad, he was only a teenager as the war was ending, same age as some of you. He was 17 in the last years of the war, and he volunteered to be a policeman because lots of the police officers had gone off to fight in the war, and so he was actually a police officer for a year or so at that time. But I'd like to talk to you about Grandad Bill for a minute, because I want to give a theme that anyone can be an upstander in any situation. So Grandad Bill is my wife's granddad. He was a fantastic chap, really lovely, engaging man. And he was really fit as a youngster, and he joined the paras. He was a paratrooper, and he parachuted into a battle known as Arnhem. It took place towards the end of the war. And it was the last defeat that the British soldiers had in the end. It was the last German victory at Arnhem. And Grandad Bill was caught as a prisoner of war and put into a prisoner of war camp by the Germans. And so in the last months of the war, that's where he was. And the order had come out from the Nazis, if you like, the central government of Germany, that any prisoner of war that tried to escape should be shot. Now, that actually goes against the Geneva Convention. It goes against what you are meant to do. But Grandad Bill did escape with some others, and he was rounded up by the prison guards. And their order was to shoot him, basically, and the other people. But those prison guards looked at the situation and said, we're not going to do that. They were human beings, and they took a human decision. And because they took that human decision, Grandad Bill got to live the rest of his life. to see, as you can see from the photo, his granddaughter get married and everything else that came with it. And it was those German guards in that most difficult, challenging of times who were upstanders. They took an upstanders decision. And I think from my point of view, we can seek examples of upstanders all around us. We can seek them at school. We can seek them in our friends, in the people in the year group above us, in our teachers, in our boarding staff, in our parents. There are so many examples that we can give. What I'd like to do is just share with you a few examples from one of my big passions, which is sport. But you can find them wherever you go, and use them as examples in terms of what you want to do. The first one goes back to the 1960s. And on your screen, I hope you can see a rusty bolt and a bobsleigh. The bobsleigh is the British team at the 1964 Olympics. The guy at the front is called Tony Nash, and the guy at the back is called Robin Wright. And in those days, surprisingly, I think for me, the British were the top bobsleigh team in the world. They were really, really strong. They were posting the fastest times going to the Olympics, and they really hoped to get a gold medal. But as you can see from the photo, we're not talking about modern technology. This is 50 years ago, and the bobsleighs were pretty basic things, and they were going at extreme speeds. This was a dangerous sport. But during the Olympics, you have several runs in the bobsleigh. British team was really, really well placed, and then disaster struck. And what happened is that the bolt, turns out rusty bolt that kept the axle, the thing that skids along the ice together, had broken. It had rusted and it had broken. They had no spare. They had lots of spares of lots of different parts, but they didn't have this bolt that they needed. And at this point, Eugenio Monti, who was the Italian bobsleigh champion and the main rival, did something that I think is quite amazing. Eugenio, just like the British team, desperately wanted to win the gold medal. Of course he did. That's why people compete in the Olympics. But Eugenio Monti wanted to win the gold medal fairly. He wanted to be the best. But because the British bobsleigh had broken, they wouldn't get a chance to compete. And what Eugenio Monti did after posting his time was he took the bolt out of his bobsleigh and gave it to Tony Nash and said, there you go. Now, that was an amazing thing for him to do. It was upstanding behavior. And actually it meant that the bobsleigh was fixed. Tony Nash's team sped down the bobsleigh track, and they won. They won the gold medal. The British won the gold medal, and they won it because of that action from Eugenio Monti. And some people say, well, he should have not done that. He would have won the gold. But I think there's something about integrity. There's something about being courageous and honest that actually means that with Eugenio, you just have so much respect for him. And there's a good ending to the story, really, because Eugenio Monti won the gold medal 4 years later in the 1968 Olympics. And I think from that, you can really take so many messages about what doing the right thing means in terms of that. I'm going to move a little bit closer to the present day. And I'd like to talk about someone that's really inspired me over the last few years. I'd like to assure you, I'm not a Manchester United fan, but Marcus Rashford has been absolutely phenomenal as a footballer. I think he's so courageous as a footballer, isn't he? He's one of those skillful players who keeps attacking, keeps wanting the ball. And as a player, you can see his determination and all those qualities. But of course, over the last 18 months, as this pandemic that we've all been living with, he's done so much more. Those of you that are not aware, he's campaigned about free school meals for children, for school children. Now, if you're not sure how that works, there are clearly families across the country, families on this call, who might well struggle with the finances, and families can be in all sorts of situations. And so what the government provides is free school meals for those children. And it's a really important lifeline for the children in terms of their health, of course, but also for the families who don't have to find that extra money. And during the pandemic, the government weren't really doing anything to provide those free school meals. It was not done very, very well. And Marcus Rashford campaigned to support those families. It meant that the government actually did a U-turn and then put more money into those free school meals so children could get them in the holidays as well. And Marcus Rashford, yes, he's a footballer and he's famous, but he used that platform, based his own experience as a youngster growing up who got free school meals, to do that. And that makes him really, really impressive. But then if we fast forward the Marcus Rashford story to the European Championships, we had an amazing summer, didn't we, following the football team? I'm sure most of you, whether you're into football or not, may well have got caught up in the experience as the English team, England, went to the final. Marcus Rashford is a huge part of that team through qualification and everything else. And he was one of the 5 players representing our country when it came down to it to take one of those penalties. And he missed it. Well, you know what? I play a bit of sport. I make plenty of mistakes every time I play sport. It happens, doesn't it? You can miss a penalty. But he stood up to take one. And it was courageous. He did his best. And clearly he cared deeply about it. And then he was subjected by, I'm sure, a small minority compared to the millions of people who live in our country, but was subjected alongside a couple of other players to just vile racist abuse. And I don't know about you, but I felt really sad the day after, not because we'd lost, it's a game of football, it happens, but because that whole positivity of our nation felt like it had been wrecked by these vile racists who felt that they could do that to Marcus Rashford and the other courageous young men who went and took one of those penalties. And that was kind of symbolized in some senses by the graffiti of the mural, which you can see there. There's a great quote on the screen that you can read as I'm speaking. But in essence, someone just in the minutes after that final went and graffitied that mural, which is in Manchester, near to where Marcus Rashford grew up. But then the upstanders in the local community kicked in, didn't they? They kicked in across the country. But here you can see what people did. And the vast majority of people are represented. I'm sure everyone in this call is represented by what happened next. The outpouring of support, the flags, the messages, the flowers, the messages around Black Lives Matters and everything else that really stood up. So as well as Marcus Rashford being an upstander, you could be an upstander in perhaps a smaller way with something like this, campaigning for something you believe in and to give those strong messages. So really, really important role model. And one of the privileges of my job I've been working in schools for coming up to 30 years now. And one of the privileges of the job is to be inspired by you, the students of the school. I can think of, you know, tens, hundreds of individual students who as young people inspired me as their teacher, as their head teacher, in whatever role I have, because you are inspirational. The generation, as you grow up to make a contribution to the world, it's really inspirational. It's why your teachers are in the room with you. It's why your boarding staff do what they do, because you inspire us as well. It is for you that we're here. And just in these last few days, the story of Emma Raducanu is absolutely amazing. Those of you in this school who are year 13, Emma is a year older than you. Everyone in this school, she's a couple of years older than you. Now, I don't know if we've got a future tennis champion in this school, or a footballer who's going to play for England, or a great art actor who's going to act on the stage at the Globe Theatre, or whatever it might be. But what everyone in this school can do is aspire to be their very best and to achieve. And I don't know about you, but I'm seeing Emma Raducanu this week. And those of you that don't follow tennis, she's got to the final of the US Open, which is one of the 4 Grand Slams. And she had to qualify to even be in the tournament. And she hasn't dropped a set, which in tennis terms just means she's winning every match, not with ease, it's hard work, but she's winning them well. But it's not just the winning, but it's the caliber of her personality, her determination, her politeness, her respect, and all of those qualities that you can see. And she's in the final on Saturday evening. If you get a chance to watch it, then you know, I'm sure you'd enjoy that experience. She's actually, her opponent, funny enough, is someone 2 months older than her. So these two teenagers, people just a little bit older than you, are going to be playing this tennis match for this really amazing tournament and prize because of their determination. And I think she'll go really well. But all you can see is that upstanding behaviour. And that's what we want from you. And of course, you show that all the time. You show it every day with your politeness, your respect to people, your helping out of teachers, your contribution to the co-curricular clubs, the support in the boarding house that you give, the support especially in this older group of students in this assembly to the younger students in our school as role models. And that's what you need to do, because by doing that, you will be successful. Just going to finish with a quote from Tim Cook. But if you think about all of the people that we've spoken about, they're in the arena. They are there front and center contributing. And I think that's what Upstanders is. And so what we're really looking forward to this year is seeing you being Upstanders, celebrating with you. And for me, I'm looking forward to being inspired by so many of you. Have a lovely day. I'm sure I'll see you around the school during the course of the day. Thanks for being part of the assembly, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.